Hello, everyone. Welcome to Feedstuffs 365, and I'm Sarah Muirhead. Meteorologist Greg Soulje is back with us today on this Friday. Welcome, Greg. Great to have you with us.
Nice to be with you, Sarah, as usual on Hip Hip Hooray Finally Friday on a pretty busy mid-July, mid-summer weather pattern and weather story going on when you think things ought to be pretty quiet, lackluster, and you're in the doldrums and dog days of summertime. Not this year across a wide area of the heartland and North America included in that.
Very good. Well, let's let you get into it and give us that forecast.
All right, we shall. And there are welcome changes ahead, mind you, as we are kind of subtly, softly, for now, gently bringing down temperature and humidity levels. Can't really feel it out there over parts of the plains and Corn Belt, but by this time next week, a markedly better feel. I think we have down south in Sarah's old stomping grounds in Champaign County. I think they open up the Champaign County Fair next Friday. We've had some of those in the rest of East Central Illinois, Western Indiana. And so fair-going festivities have been a little on the close side, tending with livestock as well. But again, better days ahead. There's the visible satellite picture from this morning. You can see the lingering shower thunderstorm activity in parts of the flooding rains, which have played out a little south of that big that devastating flood last year in that campground around Uvalde, but still parts of the upper Rio Grande, South Texas, upwards of 2 feet of rain for this week. You can see a little fragmented cloud area through the northern plains, and you can see that smoke area jumps right out at you. Its western flank's been ebbing and flowing over the western through southern Great Lakes region. Yesterday morning in parts of northeast Illinois, visibilities were down to fractions of a mile to a mile or two, and it was definitely smoky on the highways and byways around the southern Great Lakes region, and that smoke area extending into Pennsylvania and the mid-Atlantic region currently this morning. Upper level winds are carrying that smoke area. You can see the red lines, just winds up aloft, blow along those parallel to those lines, and some of these fires and forests extend up into the northern and central, what they call boreal forest areas of the Canadian Rockies, kind of the tree line, if you will, starting there and points downward, and they extend in pockets across southern sections of Saskatchewan, Alberta, northern Minnesota. That's what happens when you get a week of 100 and plus degree weather up there. It has since cooled, and there's been some sense of rain, but it's still got to kind of basically squelch the fire situation, which is still going on and building its way through northern parts of Minnesota. Anyway, the flow is off the Pacific, and we're going to increase rain and thunderstorm activity across the west. You can see that circulation down through Texas, otherwise pretty quiet over the southeastern part of the country. There is some semblance of a frontal boundary, the first of probably 3 increasingly colder, we'll put it that way, cold fronts that'll be on the move, and that will help to provide a nice welcome relief to outdoor chores, livestock duties, fair-going festivities, and corn and soybean fields, which so far many of them have really been at or below that magic threshold of 95, 96 degrees. That's the magic commodities forecast temperature itself. Even with adequate to surplus soil moisture, things get a little stressful, maybe a little leaf curl. Most of that rough weather has been out, unfortunately, through the spring grain areas of the Dakotas and upper Midwest. There is the visible satellite picture across the Midwest from this morning. Its western flank of that smoke area to about Milwaukee, Chicago, more dominant through northern Indiana, Fort Wayne, South Bend, Grand Rapids, up in the Michigan side, and heading into the mid-Atlantic region. There is a plot, maybe tough to see, but some of the individual haze and smoke reports coming in. And of course, this causes a problem with visibility and takeoff and landings and trying to find where that smoke layer tops out for aviation operations, interestingly enough. There was the satellite picture zeroed in on northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, and the southern Great Lakes region. Might be tough to see the state outlines, but you can see a meandering cloud area. That is the lake breeze front. Folks who are in eastern Wisconsin, actually around those Great Lakes areas, deal with these lake breezes. Sometimes they come in, sometimes they don't. This was a pretty favorable setup to work inland, and it was banked up right along the western edge of the smoke shield. We actually kind of mixed out with some of the lake moisture, both off of Lake Michigan and Erie as well, and points east from there. Just sort of an interesting little nerdy look from yesterday afternoon, about mid-afternoon, with lake breeze fronts and smoke all coming into play, along with a couple of showers and thunderstorms over parts of central and southern Corn Belt, which this morning were dominant through Ford and Iroquois counties. Pretty good storm around the old Gus Grissom Air Base around and north of Indianapolis this morning. Otherwise, you can see the rain still down through parts of West Texas. They're building through the Arrowhead of Minnesota with a little bubble of high pressure building on in. And later on this afternoon, the radars will light up over the southwestern reaches of the country as we move out of the fire season, well, at least the reasoning around it, into more or less flood potential going forward over the southwestern reaches of the country over the weekend and into next week as well. So the thick fire smoke continues to be the story for the Great Lakes into the upper Ohio Valley. Scattered showers, thunderstorms on the increase across the upper Mississippi Valley of the Corn Belt, with the exception of maybe out towards the Sioux Empire Corn Palace area that will be up around 100 this afternoon. Most everybody else in the middle 80 to low 90 degree range this afternoon in all but those far western reaches of the Corn Belt. So we still stay under the threshold of issues out there on the back 40, which continues, I think, like 60% good to excellent as a whole on some of these corn and soybean fields from the USDA ratings earlier on in the week. There's the drought monitor from yesterday. Still some drier patches into northern Illinois, southern Wisconsin, despite the recent rains, northeast Ohio, or northeast Indiana, northwest Ohio, and the thick of it, if you will, across northern and central parts of Minnesota as in dryness and ongoing drought. Rainfall, again, is situated down through central Texas. Temperatures in a weird configuration, odd, another way to call it. That is a trademark of El Nino in the cooler season, and even more dominant when you're in officially now a strong El Nino weather pattern in the summertime season. They get juxtaposition, the hottest weather north, the coolest weather, if you will, south, and that's where most of the organized rains for now are playing on out. In any event, 95 to 100 over parts of southeastern South Dakota, far northwest Iowa, northeastern Nebraska this afternoon. Of course, the folks in the northern plains monitoring fires, fire potential, and grain fill. Spring grains up that way off the 100-degree heat. Don't think that works very well this time of the year in that particular part of the country. Some of the streams and rivers south or below Uvalde are cresting at about 13 or 3 feet above flood stage, and that is surpassing some of the levels that were noted back in October of 1996. 100-degree heat across the Carolinas. It's been a tough summer out there. And, of course, from there on west-northwest, still got that very visible and thick plume of smoke that continues to dominate headlines there and around here too, as in being northern Illinois. Drought monitor as a whole, problem is still through Nebraska. We're okay in some parts of the upper Midwest. Improvement over the southern plains. Still got some work to do down the Arklatex, Mid-Atlantic region, blowtorched, and as well as Florida has been so far in somewhat of a disappointing wet weather season there. And you can see the story across the western United States. A little zeroing in on the Carolinas, the Virginia. Some improvement have noted down through Georgia, Cotton Belt country, and points west from there. Florida Panhandle, the western end of Florida, west of I-4, and south from there, still some work to do. We haven't had much opportunity to get into either tropical systems to work in. That may change. Lowering of pressures, maybe an increase in shower thunderstorm business there. And there are two features in the Atlantic. I think they're going to get sheared apart. One's east of Florida, another one's coming off the African coast. But again, winds are strong up aloft for the time of year with El Nino into position. So no headlines there. The Pacific may be a different story going forward. Those could impact parts of Baja, Southern California, and the desert Southwest. That's probably 10 days to 2 weeks out on some of our medium range weather maps and charts, but something to keep an eye out for going forward here as we head through the rest of the month of July. In the western states, plume of moisture and showers, thunderstorms will light up over the desert Southwest as far north as the northern Rockies to about the Cascades and the Sierra. That's eastern flank. Anything west of there, not much expected. And, of course, the wildfire potential shifting northward into northern California, the Pacific Northwest, commensurate with the push northward on the monsoon setup over the southwestern reaches of the country. High temperatures, again, centered across the Corn Belt areas out towards the Corn Palace, the far northwestern part of the complex, far eastern and southeastern South Dakota, for example, up near 100 this afternoon, mid-90s into the Central Plains, otherwise upper 80s and low 90s over the Corn Belt, and again, pushing towards 100 this afternoon, 95 to 100 for the day tomorrow, but again, some cooling expected in the mid-Atlantic region. And for outdoor work and livestock operations, some pretty close overnight lows as well. No real severe weather. There'll be some drenching downpours in spots this afternoon, but tomorrow afternoon and probably Sunday as well, there'll be a heightened risk of severe weather, at least a slight risk in some of the eastern Corn Belt areas, the mid-Atlantic region, the northeast of New England, more or less by Sunday. Not much moisture to work with when we start the drying process of the atmosphere, but the winds up aloft are strong and temperatures are colder. So that usually means some convective downpours, convective wind gusts that may come through some of these same areas on Sunday. And fire potential through far northern parts of the Cascades, I should say the Sierra, and along the Cascades going forward over the next couple of days. This afternoon, scattered showers, thunderstorms. Scattered is the operative weather word this time of the year in summertime over the heartland. So we'll see best coverages is, if you will, eastern Illinois into Indiana, scattered slow-moving downpours and a couple of stronger storms over the west and southwest, and any wet weather remain for a change on more or less the Gulf side of Florida and working inland this afternoon. And this evening, things will begin to wind down across the Corn Belt. They'll pick up on the first of three cold fronts making their way, and a snappy upper trough, as we call it for the time of year, over the northeastern and eastern parts of the country. Remember, we've been talking about, we're not completely buying into the fact that the remainder of the summertime season, as it applies, especially east of the Mississippi, is going to be terribly hot. I think we've got some significant cooling trends going forward and a couple of early season cold shots in the next couple of months to come. Anyway, showers, thunderstorms tomorrow, eastern Corn Belt locales. The monsoon setup winds down in the southwest, picks up again in the afternoon. So do the showers and thunderstorms for the mid-Atlantic region. Good news, the northeast, good news, and the eastern Corn Belt, but again, fraught with maybe some severe weather potential. Nice, at least drier air, warm temperatures, but drier air, lowering of humidity and dew points, moving into the Great Lakes, the Corn Belt areas late Saturday, tomorrow, in through Sunday. It will briefly well back up again before the second and third cold fronts come through and finally knock humidity and dew points down to far more comfortable levels, and hence nighttime lows as well will be more comfortable, and hence corn and soybean fields will begin to relax somewhat. They're probably cooking away daytime and nighttime in this kind of heat. The next couple of days, again, eastern Corn Belt areas into parts of Florida, Old Mexico on northward, and into the northeast in New England. Folks at the National Weather Service have had problems galore. We didn't get any visual satellite picture from the eastern perspective yesterday. Now some of the data that runs out 5 to 7 days has been missing. So issues out there, so we don't have that for you. You just have to check us out on this weekend's edition. This Week in Agribusiness, we'll have precip totals going forward for next week. In any event, next week, from an upper perspective, the H is the hot ridge, the warm ridge, the sinking air, however you want to properly name it or misname it. There it is, making its way back across the divide, back into the central and southern plains, parking itself down through Oklahoma and the southwest, with systems over the top in the Pacific Northwest, inconsequential, more fire potential there. The monsoon set up on the backside of that H, off the Pacific and the Gulf. That continues on. And again, a pretty impressive trough for the time of year, ebbing and flowing for the Great Lakes region, the northern and eastern Corn Belt. So again, we think that this is going to be a ongoing headline, if you will, in the next couple of 2 or 3 months. These resurgent cool air masses building into the middle part of the country and points out of the east, and a couple of more cold fronts on the move, and finally back into high pressure, drier air, lower humidity, lower dew points. You feel the dew point, if you will, at 60 to 65, but at 75 to 80, it's absolutely miserable. That's air off the southern Gulf of Mexico. And so it goes. We'll get dew points falling back into the 40s and 50s, and hence nighttime lows in the upper Midwest and northern plains may be commensurate with that. So bottom line, a far more comfortable air mass, including some of the livestock areas in the northern and central plains. Some work to do. Don't think we'll completely dry the air mass out. Matter of fact, we'll probably stay wet and unsettled down through the southern plains and southwestern states for livestock operations going forward there. So the rain is winding down through Texas. Streams and rivers winding down. Got a few days of drainage to go on into the Rio Grande. Canadian smoke still the story. It should ultimately get scoured out, then continue to maybe ebb and flow even in that northwest upper level wind flow going forward into next week. We're not completely rid of it. That's the direction of which the fires are coming from out of Canada and Minnesota, the Upper Lakes region. And that's the jet stream pattern going forward for the next week. Rainfall totals will be more dominant over the Ohio Valley, parts of the lower Mississippi Valley, and again, taking aim at Florida going forward. Active monsoon set up next week in the southwestern part of the country, and a somewhat drier trend expected in the short term next week across parts of the flood ravaged areas of central and south Texas. There's the quick snapshot on actual high temperatures again for the day today. A little better look at them into that 95 to 100 degree range in the northern plains, western and northwestern Corn Belt. In contrast to 80s, that's it for West Texas and some of those rain areas in the desert Southwest. By tomorrow, still pushing close to 90 in the eastern Corn Belt, 95 in the western Corn Belt, and back to the northern and central high plains, coolish, if you will. Southern plains areas, the hot weather is still lingering as late as Sunday. That's ahead of cold front number 3 to finally come through. So still some triple digit readings back across the Dakotas and the upper Midwest before thunderstorms make their way across the area. The cooling trend will take it till Monday to Tuesday out of the western and northwestern Corn Belt. Then finally by Wednesday, Thursday, this is Thursday's look at high temperatures, still into the 80s into the northern plains, upper 70s and 80s over the middle part of the country. 100-degree heat gets shoved down into West Texas and Oklahoma Panhandle country with livestock operations in mind. So relief in store. Next 6 to 10 days, ridge in the middle part, south central part of the country, trough in the Pacific Northwest, northeast of New England, sets up this relief in temperatures going forward as we head through the waning days of the month of July. A little rambunctious in the western Corn Belt, eastern states. Yeah, we concur in a pretty active monsoon pattern the next 6 to 10 days across the west. Next 2 weeks, no scribbling here. The hot weather across the southwest of southern plains. Again, some significant cooling for the eastern Corn Belt. That looks about right with temperatures warmest west of the Missouri, but not out of control. And maybe a little optimistic on normal precip over the middle part of the country. Yeah, for the eastern states, sure. Western states with the monsoon set up, we concur there. Next live stream is Tuesday next week. We'll update the summertime, get you maybe a couple of bullet points on the fall season around here with this strong, officially now known as a strong, and that's as high as we go, El Nino weather pattern, not gargantuan, not gigantic, not whatever. That's where we're at right now. So there you have it.
Not super
either. Not
just strong.
Strong. That's it. Yeah. And you, if you want, you can do anything you want in social media, but but we'll walk the straight and narrow here for going forward for the rest of summertime, this summer outlook, autumn, all that kind of stuff going forward when we get together on Tuesday.
Very good. Yeah, put that on your calendar. Next Tuesday, we'll have Greg on with us live, giving us the extended forecast.
Yes.
So,
and if you can't wait, you'll have snippets of it on this weekend's edition of This Week in Agribusiness, that famous or infamous 4-week forecast.
But next Tuesday, you can actually ask your questions of Greg.
Ask questions, and we will go through the rest of summertime and some sneak peek commentary on the upcoming fall season around here. So tune in accordingly.
Very good. All right, Greg, we'll see you next week. Thank you so much, and we hope to see all of you as well.